I was just looking through Black Belt magazine and discovered that I have a nice little spread in here of quite a few pages. It's all on the short sword and the technique that supports the short sword, practical application. I talk about drawing the sword, sheathing the sword, handling the short sword, and those aspects. So I'm going to work on a short supplemental tutorial for you. Let me put the magazine down right here. And let's begin with this beginning first draw, which is this draw. It's that simple. Putting it away, sheathing it. I'm going to bring my hands down to my side like this and bend my elbows upward. I'm not going to bring my hands around because that will telegraph my thoughts and intentions. So in a nice straight fashion, bring your hands up underneath the handle of the sword, grab the saya with your left hand, and of course grip it with your right hand, and then draw the sword out and create the cut. Another cut is a horizontal cut. Same manner, coming from underneath, grasping the sword's handle, bringing the sword out, drawing the sword, and then cutting a horizontal line. Also, with a downward cut is same thing, coming up underneath, grasping the sword, bringing it out, and then cutting down this way. That's the third out of 4 different cuts. The next cut is one that comes up over your head like this, and you cut down. Those are 4 basic cuts using the short sword. A lot of times when we handle the sword, we handle it just in a regular grip, which means we pull out the sword and we grip like this. We can thrust, we can stab like this, we can cut like this. Sometimes though, we use a reverse grip, which means that we take our hand, instead of coming underneath, we turn the saya slightly and we come up here at the side so I can pull my sword out and grasp it at a different angle. This way I can thrust downwards, I can thrust sideways, and when I sheathe the sword you can see that it moves in nicely. So drawing the sword this way or drawing the sword this way and stabbing, a little practice, you again won't telegraph your thoughts or intentions. Now you say to yourself, how do you pull the sword out of the sheath without having to turn your left hand? Because a lot of times you see people, if they're going to cut downward, they turn their hand down like this and they cut up. Or if they cut at a horizontal cut, they turn their hand over their side and they cut this way, which is all viable and good. It's just more theatrical. The less your opponent can see your thoughts and intentions, the less he can attack those weaker areas. And now let me show you how to draw the sword with more practical application using gravity. As I said before, we turn the handle this way and this way to get that theatrical cut or follow the saya into the cut. The only problem is it scores the inside of the sheath all the time, and over time you're going to wear a hole in the top of it. Could take a month, could take several years, it all depends. But what you have to remember is, if you work your weaponry with gravity, it will make the technique a lot easier. For example, when I draw the sword out this way, I'm just pulling it out on top. That's the first sheath. This makes it really easy. But when we get over to, say, a horizontal cut, normally we're going to turn the sheath to the side and then pull out the sword. But when you pull it out so fast, it gets caught about right here, and you start scoring it out. So instead of that, I want you to draw the sword all the way out where it's past, where the tip of the sword is past the saya, and then work on your technique of cutting horizontally. Same as cutting downwards. For example, if I'm up here like this, I'm going to pull the sword out. Instead of trying to cut it around here and trying to make it and pull it out this way and give away all my secrets, I would rather work with gravity, bring the sword in here, let it come out to the tip, because my fingers can still feel the tip, and then let it drop. The minute it drops, like a pendulum, see how that is? So what you do is, you let it drop, it automatically turns into the angle you want because gravity does that, and just work with the technique. So then all of a sudden, instead of going like this and cutting down, or using a longer sword and cutting up like this, it's a lot easier now just to let it drop and follow through. And then that way, your muscles don't twitch and you don't look like you're trying to do something sneaky, unless you have lots and lots of skill. Remember that. Also, putting away the sword. A lot of the time when we sheathe the sword, it's here, 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 doesn't really matter. But when we bring the sword back to here, it just is hard. It feels like you're motorcycling it in, and it just doesn't match up here. So what you do is, instead of trying to readjust it here after it gets over to the saya, you readjust the sword before it gets there. Simple version. There's lots of ways to do it, but this is the simplest version. So after I finish the cut, I'm going to loosen my fingers here and let the tip drop. So you notice how the tip dropped just a little bit. And then that allows me to bend at the elbow and bring it right straight in here. So this falls on the track, and my hand is now situated where my wrist doesn't look all tweaky and all bent, like this way or this way, and I can sheathe the sword very nicely. I hope this supplemental tutorial helps you in drawing and sheathing a short sword.